And welcome into the Upside Sports Talk here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us this evening. Lots to get into around the sports world as we have gotten back to business here at the Upside. Things are looking up for us, so we're back to doing our posts every single weekday. So be sure to join us every single night for MLB Hot Stove Daily. We'll also do our Power Rankings show tomorrow night, so be sure to join us for that. But we're also going to get back into our Upside Sports Talk. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA, NFL, Lord Stanley's Cup as well, as it looks like the Stanley Cup final could very well come to a conclusion tonight as Florida has jumped out to the early lead in Game 6 just moments ago. Many things to get into. Go ahead and feel free to chat with us. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your favorite team. We'll get into some trade talks as well, both in the NBA with free agency right around the corner, as well with the MLB trade deadline a little over a month away. We will have our MLB trade deadline show as well later on in the next month and a half or so. So be sure to join us live for that one as well. So without further ado, let's get things going. Appreciate you guys joining us on a Tuesday evening. Master Vinman, welcome in. Your Cubs are playing. My Rangers are playing as well, but they're off to a 3-0 deficit early on against the Kansas City Royals, who came in stumbling, as they would say. But Rangers have played well over the last 10 games or so and kind of corrected themselves offensively. Sounds like Josh Smith is getting a night off due to an injury that he might have suffered the other day, as he was the American League Player of the Week. So good on him for the success he had last week. Josh Young really needs to have that time to kind of get himself right, a lot like what we saw with Adolis Garcia about 3-4 weeks ago. And I'm wondering if he kind of corrects the swing issues that I've really noticed with that jackknife swing. But we will talk a little bit of baseball, but I want to start in the NBA. I have not gotten a chance to talk a little bit about Cooper Flagg and what this winning the draft lottery means for the Dallas Mavericks, so we'll start there. A franchise that traded away inexplicably. They're a franchise icon, the next great superstar after Dirk Nowitzki retired, and Luka Doncic to kind of have that consecutive time where you have that overlap there with Dirk, with about one season anyway with Luka. You keep going, it looks like you have your next generational star for the next 20 years. And instead of just saying, "Hey, he just got us to the finals," and try to continue to build and accomplish the great feat of winning in the NBA Finals, they decided the heck with it. I don't think we can win with his defense, and his effort, etc., has been an issue. Let's go ahead and trade him away. And I really have a thing for bringing in Anthony Davis, so I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not even going to negotiate with other teams. I'm going to make the deal and bring in Anthony Davis. Not only do I bring in an injury-plagued, I guess you could say, superstar in Anthony Davis, a great player in his own right, top 20 player in the league when healthy. Big caveat there. But I'm also not going to sit out there and hold out for the best possible return in that deal, since I'm only negotiating with this one team. Yes, this one player in Anthony Davis, I want him so bad, I'm not even going to hold out for all that I should get in return for Luka Doncic. Go ahead and just give me one young piece and a first-round pick. Not only that, I'll go ahead and throw in a second-round pick for the trouble of including taking on salary for the Utah Jazz. How does that trade sound to you guys out there? Things, to put it lightly, that trade could have gone a lot better for the Dallas Mavericks fans. And you can understand how they were protesting outside of the arena. And I know, with the world we live in today, protest, takes on a whole connotation, but whole different connotation. But let's kind of keep this in reality here. With the Dallas Mavericks trading away the superstar that a lot of young fans really grew up with in the area, the lineage with Dirk Nowitzki, how you kind of spurned your franchise icon in Dirk Nowitzki in the process, how you spurned Mark Cuban, don't even include these guys in the process. Understandably, it is Nico Harrison's decision, it is Patrick Dumont's decision, and that's where the blame should truly lie. I understand, Mark Cuban brought in Nico Harrison. To some extent, he's responsible for bringing in Nico. But he chose to go ahead and bring him in, and then Nico decided on his own accord that he wanted to go ahead and make this move and try to move off of Luka Doncic. And it sounds like around Christmas is when this thing really started to take off. With as bad as things have gotten, ever since the trade has gone down, the fan base was losing all kinds of season ticket holders. The team was losing money left and right because of the decision of Nico Harrison just a few months prior. And then all of a sudden you get by the grace of God, if you will, you somehow win the draft lottery and you get the rights to select Cooper Flagg with the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. I don't buy into the conspiracy theorists out there. There's too many different variables that go into things as far as the draft lottery is concerned. Now, I'm sure there's things that you could do behind the scenes even further beyond that, but I don't think the NBA would go to that length here to get this thing done. I'm sure they could have gone ahead and given Cooper Flagg to another super team out there, to one of the coasts out there. That's where they would seem to prefer all of their superstar talent. But instead of doing that, he ends up in pretty much the center of the USA, going to a team that's aging and needs to have a young star. Absolutely. Could he have gone to one of these other dilapidated teams like the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards? Absolutely. Could he have gone to the San Antonio Spurs and teamed up with Wemby? Absolutely. But I just don't buy into the conspiracy theorists out there. So putting that aside, what a great, great turn of events for the Dallas Mavericks fans. I mean, after what they've been put through ever since the trade was made with the Los Angeles Lakers to trade away Luka Doncic, and still watching that video of his return to Dallas and that tribute video to him and how he was tearing up, that still gets me over and over and over again. That's how impactful that trade has really been for the Dallas Mavericks fans. Now, for them to kind of have this life raft be thrown their way and Cooper Flagg is just absolutely necessary. I do not think they will trade him. I do not think Giannis will be coming on board. He will be the selection at number 1, not Dylan Harper. They're not going to get cute with this thing. They're going to try to do kind of a 2-timeline approach. They're going to try to win in the short term with AD and Kyrie. We'll get into my thoughts on that here in just a moment. And then they're going to try to win after that. So it sounds like this is a 3-year window with AD and Kyrie. And if things go well, maybe they extend this window and try to win another one. But if things don't, and they just need to turn things over to Cooper Flagg after their contracts run out, so it will happen. So as far as the the possibilities of this team. What should they do with this roster? As long as Nico Harrison's in charge, at least for this season, I don't think that there's any way Anthony Davis is traded before the summer of next season at the earliest, unless this team is completely out of contention by, say, January. I don't think that's going to happen. The Mavericks are too talented, even with Kyrie starting the season on the injured list, or being out anyway for months and months. They do need to add a guard. I think they will add a guard. They have plenty of length in their lineup right now. I think they're going to try to add a guard here. It sounds like they're trying to trade into the first round of the draft as well. Multiple sources citing that the Dallas Mavericks are looking to acquire another first round pick for the NBA draft coming up. I would not be surprised to see them target another guard in the draft as well. Now, if I were making decisions for this ball club, I would have made the decision and said, hey, I understand, Nico Harrison, you view yourself as a 3-year window here to try to win and win right now. If I'm Patrick Dumont, I look at him and say, hey, even though you have considered this to be your window to try to win and you can't really guarantee anything about the future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we now have to realize that Cooper Flagg kind of gives us an opportunity to reset our organization as a whole. And with that being said, Nico, see ya, you're out of here. I'm bringing in somebody else who takes a more long-term approach to this thing, especially now that I can put the full blame of the trade on you and I can clean up the fan base. Not to say that I'm going to completely absolve myself of the situation, but at least would increase the goodwill from the fan base to move on from Nico Harrison. One bad move really has kind of dictated how Nico Harrison will forever be viewed by this Dallas Mavericks franchise. I don't think even if they, say they didn't get Cooper Flagg and they still won a championship this year, say they won another championship next year, I still don't think the Dallas Mavericks fan base would have ever forgiven him for trading away Luka because he was, as they said, he was our guy. And so it's just not going to be the same. At a certain point, you kind of feel the mercenary aspect of being the NBA players that you acquire via trade. And Anthony Davis, as good as he might be, as well as he's been received by the Dallas area as a whole, still is nowhere near the impact that Luka Doncic had, and that will never be replaced. So we'll have to see how things work out for the Dallas Mavericks. But for right now, while I would try to move on from Anthony Davis, I would look to try to trade him with Giannis staying in Milwaukee, it looks like. I would try to call up San Antonio and be like, hey, I know you're looking at Kevin Durant, but KD's got, maybe a year or two left, at peak level of performance. Anthony Davis is, 32-ish right now, I believe. Even with his injury issues. You can slide him right next to Victor Wembanyama. You have a great front court there. Absolutely would be terror for the Dallas Mavericks going forward. But in return, you'd be able to get some salary relief if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You free yourself up to make other interesting moves via the trade market. I think free agency, by and large, is dead in the NBA. I think it's back to taking over on the trade side of things whenever we get to July 1st anyway. The trades should be flying. Lots of activity there. Durant and others among the names that have been mentioned so far. But the trade return could be something like Dylan Harper, the number 2 pick anyway, possibly getting a Harrison Barnes, kind of a filler piece in return for Anthony Davis, kind of fills that backup 4 spot for you in the rotation there. P.J. Washington probably slots in as your 3 in the starting lineup. Flagg probably slots in as your power forward in the starting lineup, and you just allow the young guys to really eat early on. The one thing you really don't want to do is kind of hinder the young guys' ability to grow. Yes, you want to have the veterans there and allow them to kind of learn, and you've got Jason Kidd's leadership there as well. Invaluable to have him there. But with Anthony Davis gone, that frees up more development time on the floor for Cooper Flagg and allows him to play his natural position there, where he'll probably end up playing anyway for the majority of his career at the 4 in the Dallas Mavericks starting lineup. You bring in Dylan Harper. He takes over as the lead guard with Kyrie down for the first few months of the season. He gets to make all the errors that he needs to in the first couple of months of the year to try to help him learn. The team grows as a result of that. They learn from his mistakes, etc. And yes, they're going to have their struggles. But then you have a great young nucleus going forward. That would be what I would have done with this team. As things currently stand, that's not going to happen. So here's what will likely happen for the Dallas Mavericks. They're going to move on probably from one of, but I don't think both of, P.J. Washington or Daniel Gafford. I think Lively could be an interesting trade piece, but with his salary being so low, his inability to stay on the floor the last couple of years, while his value is very high as far as what he might mean to some young teams looking for a young, dynamic, rim-running center, his value's not there right now because of health. And you're not going to get what he's worth on the open market because of the availability issues. Now, if he gets to the trade deadline and you're looking to sell at the deadline, you're looking to make some interesting moves. If he's the ask, maybe he's the piece that you ultimately move on from. But as far as things go right now, I just don't think that's going to happen. Daniel Gafford, if you can sign him to say a 3-year contract worth, say, I don't know, $50 million total, I think you sign the deal right now. I think if you can get him for anything under $20 million, I think Dallas would love to keep Daniel Gafford. But then you're sinking, what, $20 million per season to Daniel Gafford. You're looking at another 6 to 7 for Derek Lively. Then you're still going to have Anthony Davis committed to, what, $50+ million. Cooper Flagg's going to be making 13. PJ Washington is going to be making 14 this year. If you can get him signed to, say, a $23 million AAV for the contract anyway, I think you'd be happy with that as well. Look at how much money then is committed to your front court. Then you're left with Kyrie and Clay, Najee, Caleb Martin in your backcourt, and that's not enough to get it done on that side of things. So you're going to have to just kind of split up this money however you want to do it. I think PJ Washington is a great defender, great secondary defender, if you will. I think if you're asking him to be the primary on-ball defender, I think he's a little bit overmatched for some of the younger, quicker guards, smaller guards that are out there. And so I think if Dallas was to trade one of them, PJ Washington would be the one I'd prefer to move if I had to move one of them. But I think the more likely and more valuable piece to move that you're going to get more in return for is going to be Daniel Gafford. Gafford really fits with a lot of teams that have big needs out there. Just looking at the top of the league, or just off at the top of my head anyway, LA Lakers need a rim running center. You could probably get a first, maybe an expiring contract of a Gabe Vincent. You might be able to convince them to part with a Dalton Connect if you really hold out on the price there. New Orleans Pelicans, maybe you get the young center and Misi back in addition to a first-round pick as well there. You go to the Atlanta Hawks. You trade him to the Hawks in exchange for Vit Krejci, gives you all kinds of space to be able to sign the guys that you need to, gives you the ability to give the full mid-level exception, or full taxpayer mid-level exception, if you will, and allow them to make some moves in free agency, kind of add another guard in that regard as well. That'd be another move that they could do. It gives them, I believe, the number 14 or 18 pick, whichever one Atlanta has. But something to kind of keep an eye on there is Dallas is going to be an active team here in the trade market, not necessarily with Cooper Flagg, but when it comes to adding another first-round pick, I think they'll be very active there. The one name I really would love to see them go out there and get would be a Trey Murphy from the New Orleans Pelicans. The DLS Mavericks people anyway were talking on their pod the other day, and Bobby Corral anyway posted a trade possibility of Gafford, Washington, 2 first-round picks for Trey Murphy. Honestly, I think that's a touch rich. I think if you're giving up the 2 firsts, I think you'd hold back on one of the 2 pieces and see if you could include another piece in there, say like a Caleb Martin, something not nearly as valuable in that deal. But I love Trey Murphy as a player. 3-point shooting, defensive abilities are off the charts as far as I'm concerned, and he can kind of be your point forward while Kyrie comes back and gets healthy. Herb Jones has seen his name fly out of New Orleans as well, but I want Trey Murphy if I'm looking to bring in a piece from the New Orleans Pelicans. I want no part of Zion Williamson. If you make the trade of Anthony Davis to the San Antonio Spurs, maybe you package him along with Klay Thompson, clear up your books a little bit, then you're immediately going to need some shooting back in return. Say you get a Devin Vassell in return to kind of get this trade kind of worked out as far as salary, or maybe even a Keldon Johnson. Say you get the 27 pick from the Atlanta Hawks and you get your own 2030 pick back as well, the swap anyway. Maybe you part with one of those assets along with PJ Washington to the New Orleans Pelicans. Then you're basically trading away 3 key rotational pieces out of your lineup, but then you're giving yourself all kinds of flexibility with Dylan Harper, Trey Murphy, Cooper Flagg. You still have Derek Lively. You're going to have Kyrie Irving that you're probably going to be able to hold on to for a year while he signs the contract. It sounds like they've got the contract extension already on the negotiated right now. It's just a matter of them figuring out how they want to work things out financially this offseason. But it sounds like Kyrie will be staying in Dallas. But if you do decide to go young here, you could easily move on from Kyrie Irving in a year or so. Say the Lakers free up some more cap space next summer and they want to bring in another lead guard, if you will, along with Luka Doncic. They could be a team that would be a nice fit there. Miami's always looking for the next big superstar. Maybe for their twilight years, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving team up once again down there in South Beach. That would be a possibility there. But I think for at least one season, he'd be a great mentor for Dylan Harper, and then you just figure out where things are after this upcoming season. But back in the land of reality, it's more likely than not they're holding on to AD, they're holding on to Kyrie, they're not going to find a taker for Klay Thompson's contract, so you're going to be left with the pieces of PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford to move on from one of those two guys there. So that's where things are at as far as the Dallas Mavericks are concerned. With the Kevin Durant sweepstakes kind of heating up, sounds like this is going to get done sometime this week. I honestly would not be surprised if it gets done in the next couple of days, maybe even while we're on our live in the next 24 hours. But Kevin Durant sounds like he would prefer to go to one of the San Antonio Spurs, Houston Rockets, or the Miami Heat. Sounds like the Knicks were on his trade list as well, but they had no interest in getting a deal done. Therefore, he went ahead and scratched him off their list. Sounds like Phoenix doesn't really care where he wants to go. The Toronto Raptors have at least kicked the tires on this one. Sounds like a little bit of the Kawhi situation is what they think might be able to work there. I don't think they're anywhere near that close to being a NBA Finals contending team with a Kevin Durant. He is not Kawhi. He's 37. I just don't see that working out for Toronto. Now, Minnesota, I think would be a great fit for him. I think that would be a really good chance to win an NBA Finals there if he decides to, or if the trade gets done with Minnesota. And then if they win, who knows if he decides to stay there or not. That would mean 3 titles for Kevin Durant. He might push for 4 if he ends up in Minnesota. Do I think he ends up in San Antonio? It sounds like the San Antonio Spurs were interested in the beginning, but it sounds like they're kind of cooling their heels a little bit here. Maybe it's just they don't like the price that's being asked. It sounds like the Phoenix Suns were asking for either the number 2 pick or Stephon Castle in return. That's too much in return, honestly. I think they could get it done with a package of salary filler going out to Phoenix, as well as, say, a 26, 27 first, somewhere in there. I just don't think they're willing to give up any premium assets to bring in Kevin Durant, especially given his age and kind of their contending window. I think that Bill Simmons on his podcast was floating the idea of maybe they just go ahead and go young and allow Dylan Harper and Wemby to kind of grow together this year and keep their powder dry and go after somebody next offseason. I think that's a legitimate possibility. If they go that route, he floated the idea of them trading De'Aaron Fox. I think De'Aaron Fox has seen his value decrease across the league after the trade to San Antonio. He still would be a nice asset. For instance, Dallas still needs a guard with Kyrie Irving going down for the first few months of the season. Maybe they package together, say, a PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, kind of a package there to get bring in a guy like De'Aaron Fox. But I don't think they would do a trade like that. I don't think that would be a wise move for San Antonio as well. I think Fox really gives them some stability at the point. But then you look at their guard rotation there. When they bring in Harper, you're talking Harper, Castle, and Fox, 3 guards that are going to be ball dominant there. I'm not sure about the wisdom of having that happen. I think Stephon Castle's a great piece there. I just wonder about the ability, or kind of what we worried about with the Heatles back in the day, about there not being enough balls on the floor to go around to all the people there. So Wemby's going to have to get his shots up. Eventually, they're going to add another superstar on the wing. He's going to need to get shots at some point. And then you're left with Harper, Fox, and Castle also needing the ball in their hands as well. Just too many mouths to feed there, and I don't think it's really going to work out in the long run. For the Houston Rockets, I think this is the most likely destination for Kevin Durant at this point. I think the price is a little high for what's been asked, again, from the Phoenix Suns, as it should be, but I think that price is coming down here. I think the best offer on the table probably will come from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I think they'll probably get the deal done there. But Houston, if they decide to capitulate to Kevin Durant and say, hey, we understand you want to go to a team of your choosing, team that you prefer to go to, so we'll go ahead and pass up this opportunity with the Minnesota Timberwolves because the offers are fairly comparable. We like the young talent that Houston offers. We'll go ahead and take a Jalen Green. He's a really good kind of a Batman Robin kind of a thing going on with Devin Booker there. We're going to go ahead and bring in a couple of young pieces there and some draft picks. I think that would be a nice trade there for Houston. The question is, should they be doing this move? I think they'd be better off holding on to their young core as currently constructed and holding out for a Giannis trade, holding on to their powder for the next big superstar that's disgruntled. We just saw Desmond Bane anyway get traded from the Memphis Grizzlies for 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. They also got back KCP and Cole Anthony. That's a heck of a package back for Desmond Bane, who was a third option on that team. You have John Morant the 1. You have Jaren Jackson Jr. is the number 2 there. Desmond Bane is your number 3 scoring option. Great 3 and D type of player, ability to kind of be a complementary player on offense, great three-point shooting, really gives everything the Orlando Magic were looking for. I really like the deal for both sides, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's an overpay by any stretch of the imagination, but when you can give up your third option on a team that only finished 8th in the Western Conference, you saw in the GM's press conference at the very end of the season, he was not happy at all with where this team finished out, and he said changes were coming, and changes certainly did. Now, he says he's not going to move on from Morant or Jaren Jackson Jr., I'll wait and see on that one. I do think the Memphis Grizzlies have a great chance here to kind of reset their roster. John Morant is not going to be a man in demand as far as a trade asset. Not as valuable as you might think because of the off the field or off the court issues that he does have. But he's still a great talent. Not a great 3-point shooter, a liability defensively, but his ability to get into the lane, his ability to finish at the rim, his ability to draw contact and finish through the contact is invaluable. Injuries, though, are a question mark there, and his ability to keep his head in the game is also a question mark there. Jaren Jackson Jr., great player. Would love to have seen him go to the Dallas Mavericks as my favorite team before the trade of for Anthony Davis and try to see what he would look like with Luka Doncic. They're great friends off the court. Would love to have seen something like that. But in lieu of that happening, I think he would be a great asset for a team that's trying to grow with their young core. Say like the San Antonio Spurs, he'd be a great piece for that team. Gives them a great number 2 next to Victor Wembanyama and allows their young guards to have 2 bigs that they can really work and play off of. But I still think that San Antonio would eventually need to bring in a wing. For the Houston Rockets, I think he'd be a great 4-man next to Şengün. But we'll have to see what ultimately happens. Sounds like Jalen Green is going to be the salary ballast in any trade for a big-time salary that they bring in. So we'll have to see which direction they go. But Memphis is going to be an interesting team in the trade market here in the next week or so. Master Vinman, when you get to MLB, I'm curious as to what the Rangers are struggling with this season. We'll get into that here in just a moment, just about to finish with our NBA trade talk, and then we'll get into our MLB portion of the show. But as far as the rest of the NBA trade talk goes, before we get to free agency here in the next couple of weeks, I'm really excited to see where the trades are really going to come from. Where's the next out-of-nowhere trade that we see? Memphis has clearly decided to make a decision and take advantage of a big offer that was sent their way for Desmond Bane. Orlando thinks they're going to be a contender in the East. Giannis wants to stay in the East, it sounds like. He's open to teams on the East Coast, New York. The Nets as well have been mentioned as possibilities. I think that's very unlikely. I think the Nets are more of a salary dumping ground for this offseason once again. They could be an interesting third team to kind of help facilitate trades as the build-up to the draft and free agency is upon us. They're going to be one team that's going to help broker a lot of these deals. But Minnesota's going to try to push the envelope a little further and try to get a championship there with Anthony Edwards. While they view this as kind of their opportunity now with OKC and others at the top, and some of the other more traditional powerhouses in the NBA, not quite there yet. San Antonio is coming. The Lakers with Luka Doncic, once they figure out their rotation, their center, get somebody else besides LeBron here in the next couple of years after he retires, what is their team going to look like once they're back at the top of the Western Conference? Those are some of the behemoths that are coming down the road, and I think Minnesota really sees this as their opportunity right now. So we'll have to see, which direction they go. If it's Kevin Durant, or if they try to do another trade, kind of like the Orlando Magic did with Desmond Bane, something out of nowhere that we're not expecting. But several league executives are saying we're going to see several deals we have no idea are even coming, and I'm here for it. I want to see New Orleans make a decision with Zion Williamson. They made the decision so far to not cut him. They can do that at any time and save $36 million against their cap sheet. Understandably, he's got a great ability on the floor when he's healthy. All kinds of legal issues he is now in right now. So they already have the ability to go ahead and void his contract due to time missed on the floor, if that's the route they decide to go. So we'll have to see. I think New Orleans is going to be an interesting team here as they look to kind of reshape their roster here a little bit. New GM there. It sounds like they're going to shake things up there down in New Orleans. Lakers are going to try to address their need at center after their Mark Williams trade was nixed by, or their failed physical anyway, of Mark Williams, and that trade got rescinded, if you will. They will be adding a center this offseason, so curious to see which direction they go. Portland's kind of an interesting spot right now with lots of big salaries, big names like DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, etc., that are kind of the older heads of the team, salaries that aren't doing anything for them, but they also have guys like Anthony Simons as well. A young core there is blossoming, and I'm really curious to see if they decide to offset or try to trade away some of these salaries to allow them to bring in some other free agents this year. I think they're an interesting team to keep an eye on. Same thing with Detroit. I think Orlando and Detroit are in very similar spots where they see the Eastern Conference next year as wide open with the injury to Tatum. That this might be their 1 year to try to put things together and win in the Eastern Conference. But we'll have to see how the final shakes out with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander looking to close things out against the Indiana Pacers. I believe that game is tomorrow night. So we'll have to see how things go there. Let's get into some MLB trade talk. Master Vinman, you said when you get to MLB, I'm curious what the Rangers are struggling with this season. Pitching has been fine. Their health has been the issue so far in the last couple of weeks on the pitching side of things. The middle relief, setup relief has been great for Texas. They struggle in the ninth inning. We knew that was going to be the issue going into the year. It's just a different animal in the ninth inning. I would not be surprised with the record that they have right now if they try to get a more established closer in that role. If the Cardinals continue to struggle, maybe a Helsley would kind of be the low man on the totem pole, more likely option there. Maybe they go a little bit higher end if they want to and go to the Guardians and see if they can peel away Emmanuel Clase. There are some other interesting names. Kenley Jansen for the Angels could be a team that they might be able to talk to as well. But I would expect them to try to add a closer. But the more important thing for Texas is their offense has really struggled. Jock Peterson, let's just say he's going to be picking up that player option guaranteed for next year. So he's hit around 100 so far this season. Looked like he was kind of shaking himself out of it right before the injury. He's going to be out until probably the All-Star break. Sounds like they're going to get reinforcements on the pitching side as well with Gray, Bradford, and Spores coming back here in the next few weeks and right before the All-Star break as well. But on the offensive side, Simeon, Seager, pretty much everybody in the Texas Rangers uniform got off to a terrible start offensively. Jonah Heim started off better than he had last year, was one of the worst offensive players in the game last year. In fact, he was the least productive offensive player in baseball last year for the majority of the season until the final week of the season when he finally was bumped out of that spot. Over the past month or so, though, he's regressed to that same player, rolling over balls again and again and again, failing to lift the ball in the air. And if he's not careful, he might lose his roster spot here before the trade deadline. Josh Young has really kind of warped his swing more than anything else. He used to be a lot more like Evan Carter with a lot more level swing through the zone. And we're just not seeing that from him anymore. It's more like a golf swing at this point, and he's kind of reaching and trying to flailing at things right now. That's why he's kind of getting that mental break, it looks like, with kind of a similar thing with what they did with Adolis Garcia. The mental break did work for Adolis. He's hitting above 300 anyway since the benching, or mental break, if you will. OPS over 800 since then, and his strikeout rate dropped by 7 points. Not saying he's avoiding the strikeout now by any stretch of the imagination. It's 21% of the time he's still striking out. Still susceptible to the pitch high and the pitch outside the zone, but he's doing a little bit better ever since that happened. Now, the one thing the Texas Rangers are really bad about, and Bruce Bochy honestly didn't know about it. I was kind of surprised, as good of a baseball man as he is, but he didn't realize the Texas Rangers were dead last in chase rate in Major League Baseball going into games. I believe on Tuesday last week, so a week ago today. Bruce Bochy, ever since then, basically told his hitting coaches, hey, we need to make this a mandate that we're not chasing outside the zone. Let's fix this issue. And ever since then, they had the most walks in a 4-game stretch that they've had in over 2 years. Corey Seager's on a 10-game walk streak. They are taking a lot more walks on that 3-2 pitch, and yes, they're having a few strikeouts. That's what Josh Young is a little bit more susceptible to. I think the team needs to be a little bit more aggressive on fastballs, in fastball counts when they realize that the count is in their favor. A 3-1 pitch, bases loaded, you're going to see a good pitch to hit. Instead of just taking it for strike 2, how about we go ahead and try to drive the pitch, or at least get a sacrifice fly out of it. Rangers have really been a little bit more hesitant in that regard. I think it's kind of baby steps here. They're kind of avoiding the strikeout more, which is allowing them to get on base more, allowing them to get the pitcher to throw more pitches, allowing them to get deeper into the bullpen, allowing them to get more opportunities with runners on base, and it's helping improve their offense. And it's getting better. It's nowhere near what they thought it was going to be entering the season, but it's getting better. Wyatt Langford has struggled over the past month or so. He is due for a mental break as well if he can't shake himself out of it. It sounds like Texas might be considering doing something similar as well with him in the near future. But Evan Carter's been great. Marcus Semien got off to a terrible, and I mean terrible start, but he has certainly turned things around. Josh Smith has really carried the offense over the past month or so as well. He's kind of taken over as the leadoff hitter as of late. Corey Seager still hasn't figured out things as far as the luck factor is concerned with his offense, but his ex-WOBA, his expected on-base percentage, he's expected to. His contact rates are all really high. Same thing with Marcus Semien when he was having his struggles. They were just having really bad luck not getting the ball to fall for them. And I think he's the number one shortstop in the game as far as contact rate, barrel percentage, all those kinds of things, which are all great things, but it's not translating into success on the field. So he's changed up his stance a couple of different ways. I think Marcus Semien has changed where he's standing in the box. And I think that's worked to his advantage. He's become a little bit more of a gap-to-gap hitter instead of a more pull hitter, which is what he was in the past. And that seems to have been what's been the difference for Marcus Semien. Contact rates are actually better than they were last year, all season long, even when he was struggling. But now with that slight adjustment, that ball that might be a routine grounder to shortstop is now a ground ball up the middle and into center field for a base hit. That fly ball to left field is now a fly ball into the gap for a double. That fly ball directly to the center fielder is now a gapper between the right fielder and center fielder. That slight adjustment is all that it took to get Marcus Semien unlocked, and things are working great for him. And the power has started to come as well. Because of that slight adjustment, he's getting to the ball a little bit better as far as the barrel percentage, and that's even gone higher even since then. So while he was doing the things correctly beforehand, he's improved upon that by moving just a little bit. And I mean fractionally in the box. We're talking about maybe an inch or two forward, an inch or two back. That's the small adjustments he's been making, and that's really what's worked for him. Corey Seager, on the other hand, has started to take a few more pitches. We always saw Corey Seager when he was in the World Series with the Texas Rangers swinging at the first ball and making contact, making hard contact, and just living with the results. Whether it be a line drive smash for an out to the second baseman or a upper deck home run. That's kind of where Corey Seager was really doing. Everything was pull. Everything was instant, trying to, take advantage of the pitcher, trying to get over an easy strike, those kinds of things. Now pitchers are wise to that, and he's finally adjusted his swing decisions anyway to account for that. Now he's still very susceptible to the sinker, the 12-6 curveball. He's very susceptible to the two-seam fastball from a right-handed pitcher. He's susceptible to the slider from a lefty as well. That pitch on the outside corner of the zone, or the off the plate anyway. He's susceptible to those things. But ever since he's kind of tweaked his stance for the third time so far this season, he's had a little bit better eye at the plate. Getting back to his natural stance at the plate has allowed him to see the ball a little bit better, and the walks are going up. Contact rate is still there, and I think eventually the success will come. It's just a matter of finally getting there. Good time for your schedule to get easier. Maybe your players can work out some of these issues. True, the schedule does get a little bit easier. You're not going to win every game. Right now they're losing 4-0, I believe, at home to Kansas City, who came in stumbling, but they're kind of having a nice run of games here. Let me go ahead and pull up the standings for us. Update our page here. Texas is a game back of the final wild card spot right now, 36-36. They're 7-3 in their last 10, 4 wins in a row. It looks like they're having some struggles though today. I would expect that win streak to come to a halt right now, because I'm not expecting the offense to really turn around a 4-run deficit even at home. But with that being considered, Texas is still in a good spot going forward. You've got the Baltimore Orioles coming up. You got a series against the San Francisco Giants with Rafael Devers coming on board there. But this is a really nice, soft portion of the schedule here for them to really go on kind of a 750 win percentage, if you will. I think for Texas, if you get anywhere beneath, say, a 600 win percentage over the next 20, 25 games, I think you're going to see the Rangers kind of doing a little bit of hand-wringing, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't think Bruce Bochy would be happy with them entering the All-Star break with a sub-500 record, or even a record right at 500. I think they're looking to get anywhere between, say, 5 to 8 games above 500, somewhere in there. But we shall see. There we go. Rangers just got on the board. Osuna back in the lineup today. I'm kind of surprised they still have him on the big league club. A young guy that really needs at-bats. They really haven't been giving him to him over the last week or so. I thought for sure they would have demoted him and brought up another veteran or something along those lines if they're not going to play him. But if they're going to play him, by all means, put him in the lineup. I mean, you need to have that young guy in there to try to develop him. But back to my original point here is the Rangers are expected to be active an active trade team here. I was doing some preliminary, trade talk or trade looking for some options for the Rangers to go after for trade. I talked a little bit in our live last night about how Rafi Devers might be the best offensive piece that moves at the deadline. Rangers would have been a great team to kind of fit over there at third base if Josh Young can't solve his issues. You trade away Josh Young, you bring Devers in, you kind of throw your whole payroll your payroll this year into complete flux. But he would have been a guy that I think would have been a difference maker type of a piece for this Texas Rangers team that could have very well propelled them to a World Series, possibly even a World Series victory. Now, Devers is gone, obviously. What's the next best offensive piece you might be able to get? And for my money, I go to Atlanta. I don't think anybody's talking about this at all. I haven't heard it from anybody at all. But Ronald Acuna, I just wonder if Atlanta sees the value of that contract. Not necessarily the headache of Ronald Acuna, but the injury track record that he has, the friction that he has with their manager. I wonder if Atlanta is seeing an opportunity here to really capitalize and rebuild their farm system in one move. This would be a kind of a once in a lifetime type of a trade, for the Atlanta Braves and for the Texas Rangers. It would probably cost you pretty much Kumar Rocker, Josh Young, Alejandro Rosario, pretty much one other big piece as well, maybe even a couple other small pieces if you wanted to get that deal done. I think they would hold out for Sebastian Walcott if you're the Atlanta Braves as well in that deal, and maybe you hold on to Rosario in return. But in either event, that'd be one, out of nowhere name, kind of blow our minds, trade deadline acquisition. More realistically, you have Marcell Osuna anyway from the Braves. You have Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles. I think there's a world in which we see Austin Riley's name being dangled out there because there is no offense on the trade market. Pitching is going to be plentiful, but the prices are going to be high. Relief pitching is going to be plentiful as far as middle relief options. Closers, prices are going to be very high as well. But offense, I just don't see a lot of names getting moved here at the deadline that are going to be difference makers. Maybe Tampa Bay moves on from one of the low-low combination there. But I think they're going to try to thread the needle once again and still hold on to a wild card position. Teams like the Guardians, they're devoid of offensive talent as well, but maybe they try to capitalize on Jose Ramirez. That would be another out-of-nowhere name. But how likely are any of those? Highly unlikely. Tells you just how valuable Rafi Devers was for the San Francisco Giants to get that deal done right now. Master Vinman, the Cubs have now twice used bullpen guys to start the first inning for young starters. Never seen this before. It worked out so far. What do you think? The opener, if you will, I don't mind it. I think that the Cubs, though, are going to have to get some starting pitching with Steele going down, and I thought they needed more pitching even before the injury to some of their starters there. I do think they'll be one of the teams to keep an eye on for, say, a Chris Sale type from the Atlanta Braves. I think they would be the perfect team for Chris Sale. Goes in there, takes over as their ace in that rotation for a postseason series. I think he'd be great in that rotation. I think the A's are going to have some interesting pieces if they decide to deal here at the deadline. White Sox are going to have some nice bullpen pieces, but not much else. Royals, I think they have some nice pieces as far as starters if they don't catch fire here. But, there's not a lot of offense in the league right now that's going to be available. I think Minnesota could put Byron Buxton on the market. They could move on from Carlos Correa. Those are two interesting names I'm keeping an eye on there. Boston, I think, was looking to move on from one of their outfielders. I think they're going to hold off on that discussion until the offseason. I think if you're looking to acquire a Jarren Duran or a Abreu from them, you're not going to get that deal done during the season. Now that they moved on from Devers, they have the at-bats available for those young outfielders there, and they're not going to need to do anything there this season. Now, in the offseason, I think they're going to have to rework that outfield just a little bit. But for your Cubs, Mr. Vinman, I do think that they're going to go after some starting pitching. On the National League side of things, kind of looking at what teams might have available here, Nationals could be a nice fit for a couple of bullpen arms there. Marlins got Stowers if they decide to trade one of their offensive pieces. I think they're better off holding on to him, though. Everybody wants to talk about Paul Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't think they're going to move him this year. Starter from the Twins. As starting pitchers go, I think Pablo Lopez is out until at least September, if not the entirety of the season. Joe Ryan's been a great starter for them, but again, injuries have really beset that starting staff. I think it's going to cost a pretty penny. I think there's a world in which we see Durant being moved out of their bullpen to try to capitalize on the high prices that there will be for closers in this year's market. I do think they'll try to move on from a couple of position players, but outside of that, I think that's pretty much the extent of what we'll see from Minnesota. I think they're going to hold on to their major assets on the pitching side until the offseason, where they can try to get a bigger package back for whoever they decide to deal and have their choice of which starter they want to trade at that point. Other teams that could be interesting to sell here, I think the Arizona Diamondbacks, while they're one game above 500 right now and have Corbin Burns down and injuries, throughout their lineup, they have poor performance in that starting staff. Hazen has said he wants to try to win, and he doesn't ever really want to go through a rebuild or a retooling process. Do I think they might try to move on from a couple of guys that are on expiring deals? Sure. I think that would be what would be ideal for them. But are they going to move every single one of them? I doubt it. I think they're still going to try to win a wild card spot this year, even with Burns going down with injury, even with a couple of guys performing poorly in a Zach Gallen. I think Naylor really fits with what they're needing at first base. Are they willing to commit long-term to him? Remains to be the question there. I think the Cardinals will find a way to finally move off of the deal for Nolan Arenado. I think that deal is coming fairly soon. I think that deal probably gets done sooner rather than later as they try to get that deal done in advance of the deadline so they can try to move on to other business with some of their other veterans on their roster as well. Reds are in a nice position, 7-3 in their last 10. They will be active at the deadline. I'm just curious to see where they decide to add here. Terry Francona isn't getting any younger. This is a team that does have a young team, a young nucleus, but a lot of good pitching options that are starting to come together, if you will. I think they could use a little bit more help in that bullpen, maybe another depth starter for them as well. But those are two teams I kind of keep an eye on as far as activity here at the deadline. Other teams that might surprise us, the San Diego Padres, while they're 7 games above 500 and looking to try to compete. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Injuries have started to crop their way in from the beginning of the season and now are getting worse as we've gone through the year. Pitching has been great. Offense has been the struggle so far. They missed some time with Jackson Merrill earlier this year. He is in the lineup and healthy and so forth. But for the Padres, though, I'm just not sure how much more they can keep this thing going the way they have it set up. They don't have long-term deals set up with a couple of their starters. I think this is a time where they're going to have to figure out, do they want to try to compete for the final wild card spot and see if they can get lucky and get to a series? Or do they say, hey, this ain't our year, let's go ahead and retool for next year and be competitive next year? I think the latter is more likely. I think the finance guys are finally going to have their way. They do need to trim some payroll. I know the front office there doesn't want to sell here at the deadline. I know they're loath to do so, but I think their position right now, even with 7 games above 500, I don't think they see any future of them getting better than where they're at right now. I don't see that they have a solution to get better as far as the roster itself, better performance on the pitching side or the offense. And I think they're going to say, hey, this is about as best as we're going to do right now. So with that being said, we're only last in the wild card spot right now, the final wild card spot. So if we have any slippage, our bullpen starts to falter. Our offense sputters even more than it has. Our pitching injuries get worse. We don't really have a path forward with these expiring deals coming up. So let's go ahead and peddle some of those guys and see if we can recoup some value and go after it next year. I think that's a very likely outcome there. The finance guys sound like I said, that they've been trying to trim payroll since the beginning of the offseason 6-7 months ago. And I think they're finally going to win that argument there with the front office and convince ownership to tell the front office, hey, time for us to wash our hands of this season and move forward. Trim payroll, don't pay tax, etc., etc., etc. I think that's a very likely outcome here for the Padres. All right, appreciate you guys joining us today. Got into some sports talk with you. Been looking forward to talking a little NBA with you guys. As we see the Royals take a 5-1 lead now against the Rangers. Doesn't look like the Rangers night tonight anyway, but we'll be back live again tomorrow night. We'll get into our MLB Power Rankings. We'll talk a little bit more next week anyway in our Upside Sports Talk about the NBA draft that's going to be coming up. We'll talk a little bit more trade talks. Hopefully we'll have a Durant trade to talk about as well. Giannis, I don't think, is going anywhere. NFL, Aaron Rodgers finally signed. I do think we'll see some interesting moves here after we get past July 1st and possibly a Keenan Allen signing. Stephon Gilmore is out there. Jair Alexander is now out there on the NFL side of things. Some interesting activity as we gear up for training camp here in the next month or so on the NFL side of things. But appreciate you guys supporting us and joining us once again here. We'll be back live again tomorrow night. We'll be probably around 7-ish. We'll probably do our live for our power ranking show. So be sure to join us then. Send us some comments. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you want us to go into depth on a specific trade idea that you guys might have. Always open to those with trade season coming up here. Always the most fun to talk about as far as I'm concerned. The one thing I've always loved talking about is trades more than anything else in pretty much any of the 4 major sports out there, and excited to see what happens there. Didn't touch on much on the NHL anyway, with the Stanley Cup Final still going on. I am curious to see what Dallas does with Jason Robertson. They have to trim some salary here, maybe moving on from Matt Dumba to try to trim up some salary as they try to make some bigger moves to kind of retool their roster. A team that's gone to 3 straight Western Conference Final and not gotten past it. And I think they're going to have to shake up the makeup of this team. They fired their coach. I think that was, long overdue after what we saw in his final 20-plus games as the bench boss for the Dallas Stars. He just seemed out of answers, and ultimately it didn't work. So we'll have to see what happens there. FYI, my wife is happy you're back. She really doesn't like talking baseball with me. I hear you, Mess Rainman. Well, I'm glad you're back joining us once again. We'll have our live again to talk some more baseball tomorrow night. But hopefully your Cubbies can pull that one out against the Brewers there. My Rangers, I don't think they're going to be able to do so. They never have overcome. I don't think they've overcome a big deficit like this so far this year, but we'll see if they can pull one out today. But y'all have a good one. Stay safe out there, everybody.